just over 2 million oysters in here. So I actually started mariculture in '07. You know, they love the Beaufort single oyster, but Mother Nature only gives you a few of them. So we knew we had to actually start growing them to meet demand. And that's what we've been doing ever since. We're actually from Maryland, Virginia area, Chesapeake Bay. And just as a kid, mess around with oysters all the time. It's just something that you do. '07 was probably 40, 50,000 oysters. This year, we should be up around 250,000. Yeah, a little show and tell here. We're pulling these bigger ones out, and they'll go into a bigger mesh bag. In about 6 months, usually 3 inches and in a raw bar in Charleston or Beaufort. All right, let me hand you these back, Brian. Don't want to drop that. The final product's a 3-inch oyster, which we're about to go get here in a little bit. We get accolades all day long. If the people in Beaufort love them, because Beaufort people know oysters, and if they say they're good, they're good. Frank Bruni from the New York Times had Oysters at the Ordinary, which is a fine restaurant, James Beard award-winning chef. They had 8 oysters on the menu. He ate one of each, and then he called Chef Lotto over and pointed to our oyster and said, "This is the best oyster I've ever eaten." And he went and ate 3 dozen more, and then went on Twitter, 300,000 followers, and said, "Come eat these oysters. They're really, really good." A lot of the phone calls came from out of state, and we're just not set up to ship out of state yet. We're working on it. We got to satisfy the needs of South Carolina first. We'll drop the tanks, and the water will pass through this sieve, but the larvae is going to be around 70 a micron, so they'll be captured on this sieve. It looks like coffee grounds in here. Then we'll take this that's captured here, put them in these cups with filtered seawater. Then we'll take a sample of that and put it under the microscope. The size and how many we have determines how much food they get back in the tank when we reload the tanks with filtered water. 7 days a week for at least 21 to 25-day cycle. It's like having a lot of little puppies. I learned pretty quickly that I had to learn how to do this because we ran out of oysters in the wild. It takes too long for our market demand to get a single wild oyster. So I went to hatcheries around the East Coast, learning from them how they do it. And each hatchery has its own little ways of doing it. What works in a hatchery, say in North Carolina, may not work in a hatchery here. The water body's different. What we do here may not work someplace else. So you have to find your own little niche. The purpose of the single grain is a single oyster. If the crushed shell is too big, we'll get multiple sets on it. Then we'll get a clustered oyster. Well, we get those in the wild already, so we're not trying to grow a clustered oyster. Once they set, they can only do it one time. So they cement themselves to that piece of crushed shell, then they start growing their own shell. We do a lot of research with DNR, DHIC, FDA. We're in constant communication with other hatcheries. Weather changes things. We just had a cold snap the other day. It slowed down our growth. Our oysters our oyster larvae went an extra 5 days because of the drop in temperature. This is a refractometer, and I'm measuring the salinity in the water. Look up into the sun. Aquaculture is, from our definition, is impoundments on land. Shrimp farms, catfish farms, that's aquaculture. This is mariculture, which is impoundments at sea, which is what we're doing. That's the difference. There's about 1,800 oysters in here. These are ready for market. We got the water coming in from St. Helena Sound. That's good ocean water. And so that's where you get that nice briny, bright flavor. That the taste of the ocean, taste of the sea. That's That's what we want. Nice cup, good fan. These are going to be processed tonight, tomorrow morning, and by mid-morning they'll be on their way to Charleston. You hear the boat came up? A little bit of mud came out. In the raw bars, they typically call this the Single Lady. That's what you want to see, that nice china white kind of body, and you want to see that liquor in there. And you just want to simply cut the bottom of that mussel, and this oyster is ready to be eaten. I love them. I love them raw, cooked, steamed, any which way I can get them. Sometimes I put a little bit of lemon on them, or a mignonette, a little bit of hot sauce. I jump around, but I'll take them any which way I can get them. Beaufort County is really unique in its water. Well, they call our rivers rivers, but they're not really rivers. They're actually tidal estuaries that have flow in and flow out from the ocean. They're not from way up in Columbia, passing by all kinds of rivers and towns and water treatment plants. Beaufort County gets it. They understand the uniqueness of our water quality, and they put a lot of effort into ensuring that our water stays clean. Clean water is extremely valuable, and dirty water is extremely expensive. Our connection with the water body, with the marsh, defines who we are, and they're really good at protecting it.